Hello and welcome to Video Game Hangover. I'm Randy Dickinson and I'm in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Hey, I'm DJ Ross. I'm in Mountain View, California.
Each week on Video Game Hangover, we talk about the games that have been keeping us up at night. This week, we're playing Ring Fit Adventure, Final Fantasy VII, the Procession to Calvary, Wheels of Aurelia, and Auto Museum 64.
That's a lot of stuff.
That is quite a list.
Where do we find the time to do all this?
I suddenly find myself with a lot of free time.
Still just a thing.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
Yep. So yeah, it's quite a list. I feel like I have tried to fill every moment of every day with video games.
Yeah. Well, that sounds good. Sounds great.
So not unlike my 20s.
Yeah, right. Oh, it's so nice. I get up on the weekend now and I'm just like, oh, a whole day where I don't have to do anything. What shall I do?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the old video entertainment.
That's nice. It's nice to catch up on some of these games that have been kicking around for a while.
Yeah. Did you see there was some number came out last week? It was like, people are not going to the movies or anything anymore, but video game consumption is up like some absurd amount. Imagine that. Yeah.
I was I'm not good at like unloading old games. I almost never trade them in. I never trade them in actually. I'm not good at keeping up with selling them or giving them to friends or anything like that. So the piles of games that I buy when I buy physical games just continue to grow and grow and grow.
Yeah.
So last week I was sort of like, there's a lot of people playing video games right now. I bet you I could clean some of this crap out of my house. So I went through all of my video games and have started trying to put them up on like Facebook Marketplace to unload them. I'm like, porch pickup, $7. Come get your copy of, I don't know, Days Gone. I can't seem to give away Death Stranding though. So
no.
I feel like I've got a pretty reasonable price on that, and I've got the Steelbook edition too, which people generally find appealing. Wow. And no bites yet.
You don't have the one that comes with a life-size baby in a jar?
No baby in a jar. No.
Well,
no.
Imagine if you had one. I bet that'd be moving out of there pretty quickly.
Be gone. Yeah, exactly. That's probably not a porch pickup item though. That's I have to put on my spacesuit and rubber gloves. And...
Exactly.
Yep.
Oh, man.
Actually meet him on the front porch.
It's weird how Death Stranding just became real.
Right, exactly. Yep.
Real weird. We made a lot of fun of Kojima back in October. But
he called it, though, yep.
He was 100% right. Oh, imagine that. 100%.
Yeah. You start making t-shirts that say Kojima was right.
Oh, God. That's the last thing I need.
Right. It's the last thing he needs. His head would just swell right up.
Yeah, I'm sure he's already commissioned the design from somebody. So get it on an iPhone case, get it on a little shot glass.
Yep.
Wherever you want it.
Yeah. $24.99, you get it as DLC in Death Stranding.
Make Sam Reedus wear it. Norman Reedus. I get the actual guy confused with his physical, the virtual version of him. It's the same guy at this point.
Yep. Sam Reedus.
Yeah, Sam Reedus. I've never seen any of his TV shows. I just know him from Death Stranding. So that's just my association.
You've never seen the Boondock Saints?
I've never seen the Boondock Saints, no.
Yeah. People love that movie. I've never quite seen what the appeal is, but that was the thing I knew Norman Reedus from forever and ever.
Yeah, I only know that he's on The Walking Dead and that he takes a lot of showers and he is in incredibly good shape for a guy who never seems to work out.
Yeah. Norman Reedus is actually 64 years old. It's so hard to tell. You can't really.
He's not 64. He's like
50 something. He's in his 50s.
He's like you're getting up there, but yeah. I don't know what his secret is. Probably just the fact that he is a completely virtual being.
Right.
He can look however he wants. It's amazing though.
He's got a whole army of programmers somewhere in Japan just polishing the rough edges.
Yeah.
But yeah, can't seem to give away that copy of maybe I could give it away, but I'm trying to make a couple bucks back on this partially finished game, but no bites yet. So hopefully that goes.
Well, that's a shame.
Yeah. So yeah, trying to capitalize on people needing video game entertainment and maybe clean out some of the games in my backlog that I know I'm never going to get back to playing.
What's the oldest thing you're trying to unload?
I don't know.
Are we talking
I've not
like
gotten to the
PlayStation 3 earlier than that?
I actually put my old PlayStation 3 on the Facebook marketplace. So I have and I posted about this on our Discord. Actually, I have a 80 gigabyte kind of launch edition, one of the ones that had backwards compatibility. It basically has a PS2 built inside of it, because that was, if my understanding of that technology was right, the only way they could do backwards compatibility on the PS3 was to put a PS2 inside the box.
Yeah, we thought they were being all sneaky, had some fancy technology, but no, there was just a PlayStation 2 inside it.
Yep. So yeah, that's been in a box in my garage for probably 3 years. And, I have a PS3 Slim. I don't intend to hook both of them up simultaneously ever again. So I figured now was the time to get rid of that old one. And I put that up on the marketplace, and again, no bites yet, but, that might be the oldest thing that I've listed thus far. I've not gotten to my DS games. I do have a little fabric crate of old DS games that I probably don't need to hold on to all of them anymore. And I was thinking maybe I would pop some of those on there too. I don't know what the aftermarket is for 15-year-old DS games at this point. But
you have any Pokemon games for the DS?
No Pokemons, no.
Oh man, those are quite expensive at this point.
Are they? Yeah.
It seems weird because you'd think there would just be millions of them out there, but no.
People want to hold on to them forever.
Yeah, that could be it.
Yeah. So I don't know. Ask me again next week. Let me get through the entire list, and I'll report back with some demographics on my ancient collection that's now up on the Facebook Marketplace.
Nice.
So we have this massive list of games. Maybe we should probably get to some of them sooner rather than later.
Maybe. I was going to start by saying, just to give an update on where we left off last week, I sold all my turnips.
Hey!
And now I have millions of bells in Animal Crossing. It was a whole ordeal, though, which was what I was afraid of getting into this. This was the first week I had bought turnips in the new Animal Crossing. I've been holding off just because I remembered in all the previous Animal Crossings how much of a chore it was to, like, first of all, you have to put down a sizable amount of money to buy these things.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had to devote maybe not a lot of time, but more than 0 minutes of your time the rest of the week just trying to find somebody whose island is buying these turnips back for higher than you bought them for.
Right. Did we explain last week kind of adequately what the hell you're talking about?
I'm sure we have at some point. It's basically, turnips are the Animal Crossing commodity. You just buy low, sell high.
Yep.
Usually this involves a lot of like town or island hopping.
Yeah.
And for the most part, I feel like it's kind of a long game if you just play it real conservatively. Like maybe you buy them at 90, sell for 130. So that's a decent profit. But occasionally some towns will be buying turnips for like 500 or 600 bells, which is a huge markup.
Right.
So if you really want the fast cash, you need to be tracking these things down. And then, it's such a chore to have to actually connect to somebody else's island. And usually at that point, the word is out that they have these high turnip prices. There's a line to get in.
Yep, you are one of 40 people waiting to get into this town. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it was around lunch sometime last week where I was like, okay, while I'm eating lunch, I will be on one of these like turnip trading sites that have popped up, trying to unload these turnips. Mm-hmm. And it was a nightmare because all the people with the high turnip prices have just kind of keyed in or clued in that like, I could be getting a cut of this. And what I remember back from my turnip trading days on the DS was usually whenever you would make a trip to somebody's island to sell your turnips, you would drop like about 100K in bells, or like a 99K bell bag.
Mm-hmm.
As kind of a tip. It's like, you're making a lot of money. That's the least you could do with them. It's a nice gesture.
10% always was kind of the standard that I remember from 10%. Reddit. Yeah, 10%. So, yeah, I mean, still, to your point, if you're making $1 million in selling your turnips, 100,000.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an unreasonable tip.
Sure.
Yeah.
But there's like
they are providing
site.
A service you are in need of. So,
yeah, it's true.
Yep.
The site I was using, though, you can kind of post, like people post their islands and their friend code or whatever, and they will post like whatever they're kind of expecting as a tip or an entry fee. Mm-hmm. And some of these requests are getting pretty outlandish.
Oh, yeah.
They go beyond just the 99K. And like the popular thing now is the little Nook travel tickets to let you go to the mystery islands. Or
gold nuggets. I've seen people like, you must drop 5 gold nuggets before I let you into the island.
Yeah, and those are incredibly rare. So
yeah, I've been playing for a month in a week, and I have like 6 gold nuggets in to my possession.
Yeah.
So I'm not giving you 5 of them so I can sell my turnips in your town. Yeah.
Right. The mile ticket things is hilarious to me because like whatever, I will give you like in the most ridiculous cases, people would ask for like 10 mile tickets.
Yeah.
And I'm like, fine, I have a lot of miles. I just don't want to go to the machine and talk to the machine 10 separate times because the interface in this game is awful.
Yep.
Just the thought of that is like, oh, I don't need 1 million bells as that badly.
There's a certain pride in kind of living within your means in Animal Crossing. Yeah.
So I was just like, after about half an hour of this, I'm like, okay, this is exactly how I expected this to be. This is terrible. Why did I ever do this? Now I'm just going to have all these rotting turnips on my floor at the end of the week. But then I got a tip from, once again, Razor Alma in the Discord with the Animal Crossing assist, who linked another Animal Crossing Discord specifically for trading turnips. And through that, I was able to find one of these hidden gem undiscovered islands where somebody had high turnip prices. And
nice.
After only like 45 minutes more, I was able to go over and trade my turnips. So that was terrific.
Good. Yeah, it is a stressful process, and that is why I will not permit myself to buy every week, because I can't just churn through that, I don't know, that roller coaster of emotion every single week. Mm-hmm. Of like trying to get into somebody else's town to sell them, or hoping that my own turnip prices raise high enough to be able to get a return on my investment. Because there's a lot of apps and stuff like that to be able to track that, because there are kind of systems to these things.
It's amazing that people have figured that out, because I don't think that was quite as like cracked as it was or back on the DS.
That existed in New Leaf. There were tools for tracking that in New Leaf, but I don't remember it going back quite so far as DS. Wild World. But yeah. So it's you get to Thursday, and you know that the I don't know, $500,000 worth of turnips that you bought are gonna rot in 48 hours if you don't do something about it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it gets real stressful, and I end up sitting, in front of Reddit for too long, hoping to find, please let me into your town so I can sell, and trying to not pay some ridiculous, exorbitant fee. So yeah, no, I can't participate in that every single week. It's just too much.
Yeah. I did it again this week. I don't know what I was thinking. I was just like, well, let's see if this Discord can, strike gold with this Discord 2 weeks in a row, and then maybe exactly. I will calm down after that.
Yep. So are you a billionaire yet?
I don't understand. So people will throw that around. What does that mean? Does that mean you have 1 million bells? Do you have 1 billion bells? Because that's what it kind of sounds like.
It sounds like that. You can't have 1 billion bells, unfortunately. No, you max out.
That is so many bells.
Yeah. Anything more than 1 million.
Anything? Okay. No. I made like 2 million off of
good for you.
The turnips last week.
Nice. That's some bridges and ramps you can start sprinkling around the town.
It
right
is,
there.
yeah. I built a little ramp.
Yeah. You get a basement. You get a second floor room.
I didn't just like blow it all immediately. I put it all in the bank till I figure out what I want to do with this, just because I don't know how often I'm going to be doing the hardcore turnip selling.
Good for you.
So, little nest egg of turnips.
Make it last. Yep.
Yeah. But I did put another room on my house immediately. That was nice.
Good. You need a place to store all those turnips.
I know, that's exactly what I did. I was just like, turnips just beget more turnips.
A turnip basement.
Just like the whole outside of the house looks like a turnip. Wouldn't that be great?
Excellent.
Well,
good. I'm glad it worked out for you.
Yeah, still checking in with Animal Crossing once in a while.
Oh, yeah, of course. I've been checking in quite a bit with Ring Fit Adventure. You talked about this shortly after it came out. I got a copy for Christmas.
Nice.
And
speaking of stuff that you could maybe want to unload a few people right now, because these are become quite hard to find.
They are, yeah. And unfortunately, it has been, unfortunately, I guess, it's been kind of one of the places that I've been able to get some really kind of good, vigorous physical activity on a daily basis during my quarantine. We have been playing it quite a bit. Like I said, I got it for Christmas and dipped into it once or twice and like, okay, I get it. But didn't really kind of get hooked on it until kind of lockdown. And I'm like, well, I need to do something. I can't sit on the couch and play video games all day. I have an idea. I will stand up in my living room and play video games. And yeah, so I've been playing Ring Fit. And I got Sarah to create a Nintendo ID so she could play Ring Fit as well, and we could track each other's progress and stuff like that. She was a big fan, as was I, of We Fit You on the Wii U, and we in fact still have the Wii U hooked up because she still plays that quite a bit. And yeah, so I was excited to be able to get her over to the Switch to play the new fitness game on the Nintendo. She doesn't like it nearly as much.
Oh, why not?
Yeah.
What's so different about it?
She doesn't like the adventure mode. She just wants to play the games.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, she can do that, right?
You can do that, yeah. We have started digging through some of the other options in there, and there is a requirement that you kind of play the adventure to unlock some of that stuff.
Okay.
But it does give you the ability to play enough of kind of the mini games and challenges without having to go through the whole campaign.
Can she or can you? I mean, I assume you like the adventure mode. Or
yes.
I don't know. I was going to ask if you can just play through the adventure mode yourself and unlock stuff, and then she can make use of those unlocks on her own profile, or does she need to do it separately?
Actually. I'm not sure. That is something I will need to explore this week. But that's
just another stupid video game that makes you go through a campaign to get to the real stuff. Am I right?
Yep. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot there, but there are things that are hidden behind a progression wall.
Right.
Yeah, and that's, I think, the thing that is probably the more time I spend with Ring Fit Adventure, the more I'm sort of surprised by how much there is an RPG buried in this, where you have a character and you have lore and you have a map and you're trying to stop at villages and on your way to different places along the way to beat enemies and things like that. And of course, every enemy encounter requires you doing side twists and overhead turns and sitting on the floor in my living room and doing leg lifts and things like that. And man, anything with squats just kills me every time.
Yeah, the squats are tough.
Yep.
I feel like Nintendo has such a knack for this kind of thing, where they can take just a widely recognized and accepted mold of a video game, but then make the main activity something absurd. But then it just works somehow. A lot of those Street Pass games felt this way to me.
Oh, sure, I could see that.
They were like very familiar video games, but in this one, I can't remember what you were doing. You were like cooking stuff, or like launching yourself out of a cannon. But in between all that, it was just a very kind of typical RPG with expected kind of RPG things all over the place.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing that again sort of continues to be surprising to me is I was trying to sort of figure out how do I get my defense up, because I was having trouble fighting some of the tougher monsters in the game, and you actually have to buy new workout gear and new workout clothing. So you get new sneakers, you get a new tank top and a pair of stretchy shorts, and that actually increases your defense. And I was like, oh, I get it. It's armor. That's clever.
Right.
And power-ups are smoothies. So you have to collect like spinach and kale and berries and recipes for smoothies, and find the little smoothie shop and use their blender to make yourself a smoothie. And you can drink a smoothie before you go into battle, and it will increase your attack power. And I was like, oh, it's real. They took all of the little components that you would expect from an RPG and turned it into kind of a fitness objective.
Yeah, they just changed the names and everything. It's really
good. It's good, yeah. And the thing that continues to be surprising to me is just how much of and listen, I'm not the most fit person in the universe, so this coming from me is probably odd praise, but it is a very intense workout.
It is.
It is. I am always surprised that after, it gives you a little like countdown at the end of how long you've played, and you did your warm up and your cool down. It's like you played for 22 minutes today, you burned this many calories. It checks your heart rate too. You put your thumb over the IR reader on the Joy-Con, and it actually checks your pulse. And I compare it to Google Fit.
I wonder how accurate that is.
It's pretty accurate.
Is it really?
It tends to be a little low compared to my watch. Google Fit on my Wear OS watch will say like 104 is my active heart rate, and the Switch will say 102, and it's almost always kind of within 2 beats. Yeah, enough that you could sort of like, okay, well, I'm in fat burning mode, I'm in aerobic mode. It gives you a sense of just how much work you're putting into it. And I am always a sweaty mess at the end of these. You play 20 minutes a day, and you work your way through the map, and you take on a bunch of enemies. And some of the maps require you kind of jogging in place in your living room and doing like lifts to get upstairs and stuff like that. So you're kind of running to the next objective. And they're little obstacle courses, which are always really fun. And even that is challenging. A lot of that is you using kind of the ring con in front of you, the aerobic ring with the Joy-Con slipped into it to kind of, if you squeeze it, it shoots an air blast at coins. If you pull it wide, it turns into a vacuum cleaner, and you can kind of point it at things in the environment to suck up coins, suck up of power-ups and stuff like that. So you're doing a lot of stuff. You're kind of simultaneously trying to manage a number of objectives, and all of those things are just taxing your body. And so by the end of these workouts, by the end of the 20 minutes you spend a day playing Ring Fit Adventure, I am wiped out. I am jelly. I'm just a sweaty mess in my living room. I'm gonna go take a shower because everything hurts.
Yeah, and it's surprising because at the start of it, it just feels like you're playing like a Wii game with a weird accessory or something. Like
it's
nobody ever got sweaty playing Wii tennis or whatever,
right?
Or maybe
and
some
it's
people
kicking my butt.
But yeah, depending on what settings you configure it with at the beginning, it can get quite intense.
Yeah. And it's at the point now where it's sort of like, hey, we noticed that you're beating your best scores and you're getting new high scores every day. Do you want to crank up the challenge a little bit? And I'm like, well, I don't know if I'm there yet.
There are quite a few levels. I think there's like, it's very possible I'm wrong with this, but I think there are like 30 levels or something like that.
I don't know what the max is. I think I'm only 8 or 9 in. So
okay, yeah, that sounds about where I was playing it. But I feel like there's enough granularity where you could just like bump it up 1, and you wouldn't be killing yourself, but it would be a nice little kind of subtle boost.
Yeah. I've not explored that yet, but yeah. It's a good time, and it's again, it continues to be surprising just how fun it is as a video game. That part I find sort of challenging and endearing. It's kind of peopled with kind of fun characters. The 2 people that run the smoothie shop are Honey and Hubby, and they're cute and funny. And every time they pop up in the story, I'm like, oh, hey, it's those guys. And the villain is Drago, and he is basically a gym bro dragon. Yeah. He wears tank tops a lot and pumps a lot of iron, and will sort of absentmindedly do push-ups while he taunts you. There was a thought bubble that popped up that said Drago is thinking about his next workout while he's working out. So it's funny. There's some kind of sharp, amusing writing in it, and I've been having a really, really good time with it. And I'm glad this thing exists to get my ass off the couch during this quarantine.
Nice. Yeah, I've been off it for a few months, but what a great time to get back to it.
Yeah.
I find myself wondering, I don't know how to put this, but if it could be more like at certain points, I wish it were more focused on being like more of a fitness tool than being an RPG, if that makes sense. Because you'll get into battles with these little enemies that you have to do sets of exercises essentially to defeat. And sometimes, an enemy will have very little health left for you to defeat it, and you'll only end up doing like one or two reps of whatever the exercise is, like whether it's squats or twists or whatever you're doing with the ring. And I just thought, well, I wish it would kind of, if it were just designed so you would have to do an entire set to finish off an enemy, because it feels weird to like in some cases you have to like sit down on the floor and do like you can do like, I forget what you're doing on the floor, like leg lifts or something, right? But you'll go through all the effort to get in position and then just do like two, and the enemy will be defeated and be like, okay, done, on to the next thing.
And keep moving. Yep.
Like that seems like a very uneven workout. If like, okay, today I did 30 squats and 2 leg lifts, but I beat the level.
Yeah, I agree. It should ask you if you want to finish doing the set, right?
That would be really nice. Yeah, I think that's all it needs, really. And maybe that is what the kind of standalone exercise mode is for, rather than the adventure mode. Yeah,
we've explored that a little bit, and some of it is just the mini games that you play, and the mini games are a lot of fun. I don't want to dig into those too granularly. We can get into it another week, but there's some real fun challenges in there. But other ones, you can just go in and go, today I want to do shoulders, or today I want to do legs, and it will pull out all of the exercises in the game that hit those body parts, and you can just do them in Procession. You can kind of create your own kind of playlist of exercises that aren't tied to you actually running through the adventure mode. There's the new what's the other one? The new rhythm mode, rhythm game too,
which
actually takes. I did. I tried it out the other day. It takes songs from Breath of the Wild and Splatoon and stuff like that, and you do exercises to the beat of those sounds. And it's fun too. It's kind of a nice, kind of absent-minded way to kind of get exercise in, like prolonged periods of exercise while listening to good music.
I tried this out a little bit earlier today, and I was pleasantly surprised, I think.
Yeah, it just needs more music. It's pretty limited in terms of how many tracks are in it,
Similarly to the main game, though, I was just shocked at how intense it is compared to what I was expecting. Because I started out on, like, normal, whatever the normal difficulty was. Yeah. And I was like, that's fine. That was a nice thing, because I haven't played this in a few months. So I put it on the next one, which is, like, advanced, I think. And it was a lot. It was like so many more kind of beats you have to keep up with. There are a lot more. There's a lot more like alternating between. It makes you like twist left and right and move the ring, or squeeze or pull the ring. So that was a lot more intense. But I probably only made it through like, I don't know, 4 or 5 songs. I was trying to do just a sampling of all of them. But by the end of it, I was like, okay, I'm done. This was enough for today. And then even beyond the advanced mode I was trying, whenever I finished a song on that mode, it was like, okay, you want to try the ultra advanced mode? It was like, no, because I will die.
Right.
It's hard to tell whether when it's asking you to make decisions like this about adjusting the difficulty, it's like, well, are you asking me if I want to play a more advanced version of like the game, or if I want a more advanced workout, which I guess are kind of the same thing, but it's very it's a little
in the situation they would be probably synonymous.
Yeah. Because what if I'm playing a rhythm game that doesn't involve exercising? I'm like, yeah, give me that ultra advanced mode. But in this one, I mean, that was kind of my first reaction. But then I realized, like, well, this is just going to be me doing just 100 twists and squats a minute, so that's probably not good. Maybe someday I'll get to that ultra advanced Ring Fit rhythm game.
Yeah. I really just did the whatever the introductory one is, the standard one, and I went through a bunch of the Splatoon tracks because I love the music in those games.
Yeah, the Splatoon one was good.
Yeah, I did the Breath of the Wild because I was like, I don't really know how the music in the Breath of the Wild would lend itself to a rhythm game, because it's kind of ambient. It's not very soundtracky.
Right.
Yeah. But they selected. I still get heart palpitations whenever the music plays for the Guardians.
I know. That's what it opens with. And I had the same kind of reaction. I was like, well, what music is it going to even use for this? And then it just immediately goes into that, a Guardian is targeting you with a laser beam song. And I was like, oh, okay, this is stressful.
And for the benefit of our listeners who have not played Breath of the Wild, the Guardians are these massive, hulking, many-armed sort of defense robots.
Just difficult enemies.
Yeah, and they're nearly impossible to beat until much later in the game. And then they're still very difficult to beat. So, yeah, it's intense. But yeah, I've had a really good time with it. It has been a fun challenge. It's been satisfying to sort of see just how much of a video game there is in this thing, and it's not just a tool for doing aerobics with your favorite Nintendo pals. It's actually like a story mode and stuff like that to kind of tie it all together, and it doesn't feel goofy or forced. It feels like they've created this fun little kind of adventure, this fun little world where all of these things kind of make sense.
Yeah. I trust they have been working with some fitness consultants or somebody in that role when they're designing these new modes, especially like the new rhythm mode. Because, I was like, as I was going through these songs, I was thinking, okay, this is good. I'm sweating a little bit, but I wonder, like, is this kind of a logical workout routine? Like the way they have these like twists and squats set up?
Yeah.
I feel like that must happen at some point. They're not just arbitrarily throwing these things in to work with the rhythm mode. But
now legs, now shoulders. Yeah.
Yeah. So at no point that I can remember, it just comes out and says, oh, we've worked with, a fitness professional to design interesting courses that make sense to.
No, it does not say that.
Targeted areas. I'm kind of like, just taking their word for it.
Sarah and I have been trying to kind of one-up each other on some of the scores and our levels and things like that. And she texted me one day from work, and she's like, man, I have just the worst tennis elbow from the Ring Fit. And I'm like, what's funny, you should mention that. The sides of my chest, like the muscles kind of on your body under your armpits. Mm-hmm. I'm touching them right now, and they are very, very tender and painful from squeezing on that ring. And I'm like, this game is going to put both of us in the ER.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think I mentioned this when I first talked about it. There is one mode that is just like strictly mini games. That's not like, exercise this part of your body. It's more just like play a weird game using the strange ring controller.
Right.
And they're all like, okay, just squeeze the ring as fast as possible or as many times as you can in 30 seconds. And I'm like, there's no way. Like, you would never go to a gym and have a trainer just be like, okay, just lift this thing as fast as you can. Lift 50 pounds. Just do it as many times as possible.
Yeah.
Like that can't be good. So I hope that is only a thing just for that weird mini game mode. The rest of the modes there are more thoughtfully designed.
Yeah, yes. It feels like there's a little coach on the screen to sort of like, okay, go slower, you're rushing it. And it seems like it's sort of sensitive enough to your motion and the motion of the controllers to be able to kind of give you good advice on maintaining better form and speed and stuff like that, so you don't actually hurt yourself.
Yeah, it called me out on because I was getting a little, I was maybe coming up a little earlier than it wanted me to on the squats. And I was like, no, stay lower, stay down there. And I was like, oh, yeah, fine.
You do the yoga ones are tough. The chair pose, where you sort of get into a squat and you raise your arms above I'm doing it now and my chest hurts. You raise your arms above your head with the ring controller in your hand, and then sort of slowly bring the ring controller back down so that it's in front of your body, and then slowly raise it back, all while holding the squat. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, this kills me every time. It's so painful. I'm like, yoga is tough, guys.
Yeah. Props to all those guys.
All the yoga people. But yeah, Ring Fit Adventure is a good time.
Yeah. I hope they can get the production back on track so more people can get these things, because it's great if you are just cooped up at home.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you can't. It's not a thing you could kind of download and just be able to play in your living room, right? You need that accessory. So
yeah,
that's the bummer part.
It would be very weird if you just played this with Joy-Cons. You're like, oh man, this is so easy.
Nintendo's all about the cardboard. They should send people directions on how to build one out of cardboard.
They should. They could at least give you like a little I don't know. Like, you just get the leg strap. That's probably cheaper to produce than the ring.
Oh, yeah, the body bands. Yeah.
Yeah.
What else have you been playing, TJ? What else has occupied your time this week?
I've been playing a couple little things that I could go through. They've been a lot of fun. Both car-related, incidentally, I just realized. But I checked out this thing last week called Auto Museum 64, which is just a free game on itch.io at the moment. It's put together by Leo Burke. And what it essentially is just a showroom of cars. Or a museum, I suppose, but it just looks like a big hangar of fancy cars, like you're going to an auto show or something. Except they're all just the models of cars from Nintendo 64 games, or
cool.
Nintendo 64 racing games specifically.
Yeah.
So you download this on your computer, and it loads up, and it's not the fanciest looking thing ever. It's just like some generic Unity game, and you walk into this room. And there are just all these super chunky kind of, like an N64 car just sitting there for you to walk around.
Excellent.
And the idea is it's just a museum of all these, kind of vintage video game cars. And they all have little placards in front of them explaining, what game they're from and what year it was released. And they have all the names of the modelers and texture artists, I'm assuming.
Oh, cool.
But I saw this and I was like, this looks amazing, because it's such a, N64 and, PlayStation 1, that era of video game graphics and 3D was so full of just unique aesthetics and approaches to trying to create video games that looked good using very, comparatively primitive 3D technology compared to what we're used to now. So it's amazing to go back and just be like, oh yeah, I remember this. I remember when video games look like this car that's made out of 10 polygons and enormous textures that back then it was probably mind-blowing to see these things racing around a track, but now it's just kind of cute. Kind of looks like 3D pixel art almost. So I had a really good time walking around this museum.
Cool. I'm surprised Nintendo hasn't shut this down.
Yeah, I was wondering about that, because if it's not going to be Nintendo, I wonder if car manufacturers would have an issue with it, because I think that's been kind of a hurdle to just getting more modern racing games re-released, because if they have licenses for actual cars, they have to keep renewing them, or at least paying the manufacturers, I'm assuming.
Right.
But he's not charging anything for this, so maybe that keeps him out of the crosshairs a little bit. I don't know how it's going to work. It's only been out for a week or so at this point. Hopefully they turn a blind eye to it, because I think it's just a cool piece of video game preservation happening.
Right.
Oh, it was so good.
They rendered it in 3D?
Yeah, it's all in 3D. You walk around. And it's funny, I was thinking as I was making my way around these vehicles, they're all kind of scaled, so they would be the size of a real car if you were standing in front of it. Which is especially funny when there'll be a hovercraft from Wipeout 64 or whatever sitting there, because then you're just standing in front of this kind of life-sized weird spaceship thing. But at certain points I was just kind of thinking, I wish I could kind of see the tops of these cars better. I could just float the camera above, higher up, as if I were in some other kind of video game, but it really just feels like you are a person. So you're forced to look at these things at kind of eye level, which is interesting.
Cool. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, that was super fun. There is if there was one thing I wish it included, it would be I don't know, these were only N64 racing games that the cars came from, but I thought that would be great if there was a wing that started with even more primitive, you could have a bunch of old racing game sprite cars in there, up to the more modern stuff, something from the latest Forza, just so you'd see the evolution of all these virtual race cars. Would be super cool.
Oh yeah.
But no, he's stuck on theme, just stuck with the N64 games, which are also very fun. Maybe there'll be expansions in the future. Super good, super fun.
Yeah. So do you consider yourself a car person? Are you like a guy who's into cars, or is this
not
just
at all.
Not at all. So you just kind of like the video gamey-ness of this.
Yeah, I just like seeing the big kind of N64 models hanging out in a room. It's funny.
Yeah.
I played a handful of racing games on the N64, but none of them were, I feel like, the super hardcore racing games. Like, I never really got into like Cruisin' USA or whatever version of that was on the 64. Mm-hmm. Or a lot of these, like I was reading the placards, I was like, I've heard of this, but I definitely never played it. There are a lot of them that just sound like they have like some version of NASCAR, and like I have a list here somewhere of all these games. I think Ridge Racer was on there.
Oh, cool.
But I definitely never played even close to the full list of stuff they had on display. So that was also kind of fun, just seeing the different approaches or different styles to the cars there.
Right.
There was a Lego racing game on the 64 apparently, which was just another weird dimension of this, because you would be touring around all these fairly realistic looking cars, and then there's just one made out of enormous Lego pieces. So I was like, oh, it's getting a little silly. But it was super cool. It was, like I said, it's free on itch. It's called Auto Museum 64. If you played a driving game on the N64, there's a good chance that the car you drove is in here. With the exception of my favorite racing game on the 64, which was Beetle Adventure Racing. I don't know if you've heard of that one.
Never.
It was a racing game where all the cars were just the new Volkswagen Beetle, because that came out around the same time. So I was super excited. I was like, okay, all I really care about is, are they going to have a wing devoted to Beetle Adventure Racing? And then, like, one of the very first things you see in the museum is kind of a walkthrough of how he actually went and extracted all the models from these N64 games, which is also just very interesting in its own right. And there was some placard that was like, well, in some cases, with some games, for instance, Beetle Adventure Racing, and I was like, oh yes, it's here. So it's gonna be here somewhere. But then I finally made my way to that exhibit, and there was only one car. I assumed that's just because they were all Beetles, so they just picked one texture to represent that game. But
that makes sense. Yeah,
I was glad to at least see it in there. That was fun.
Huh. That's cool. What an interesting way to sort of approach kind of video game preservation.
Yeah. I would really love to see more stuff like this. I forget what game it was. It was one of the Call of Duty games where over the credits or something, you kind of were floating through a museum of just like dioramas of, I forget if it was like scenes from the game or just different characters or models in the game, but it was just like this weird museum setting. And I kind of thought back to that when I was going through this auto museum, just thinking, well, why don't they have one of these for like, see the same scene? I'm sure they've done like D-Day in every other Call of Duty game that's come out since whenever the first one of those came out. It'd be cool to see, the evolution of that, or just all the crazy different settings that like Nathan Drake has kind of wandered through, and all the Uncharted games. There's a lot of potential for these things.
Or the education mode in Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
Man,
I still have to try those out. I keep forgetting about that.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah, super good. Again, Auto Museum 64, free on itch. Get it before the lawyers find it, I guess.
Somebody from Volkswagen is drafting up a letter right now.
Yeah, right. I can't have that Beetle in there. And then the other thing I played, the other car-related game I played was, it was one of the free games on the Epic Store a couple of weeks ago. It was called Wheels of Aurelia. I think this is on other platforms as well. I think it's even on the Switch.
It is on the Switch, yep.
It is a game about driving a car up the Italian coast in the 1970s and having conversations with your passengers. So I heard about this. And first of all, it was just a weird thing to have on the Epic Store. I forget what else they were giving away that week, but it was like some fairly like high profile game. It was like, I don't know if it was AAA, but it was like looked pretty expensive. And then like this weird game about driving a car, and they're just like these
God
2D
of
character
War
portraits
and
talking to each other.
Wheels of Aurelia.
Yeah, it feels like, whenever the free games in PlayStation Plus would be like, hey, this week it's Uncharted 3 and like Hello Kitty puzzle madness or what. I don't know. It's like, oh,
I love that Hello Kitty puzzle madness.
Yeah, no disrespect to Hello Kitty. I'm sure that's a terrific game. But, just a weird thing to see pop up. I had never heard of it before, but it sounded just like the premise reminded me of like NeoCab that I talked about a little bit last year, and what was that other game I played that was just conversations in cars?
The Subsurface Circular.
Yeah, a little bit. I don't know. That's the one I was thinking of, but sure.
Oh, okay.
Just very kind of conversation based and not so much about driving a car.
Right. It's not a racing game.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And this one, you actually can drive the car a little bit. In NeoCab, you never did. It was only conversation. So I thought that was just another weird kind of spin on this. But it starts out, and you are just driving. You're like meeting up with your friend to drive her up the coast in, like I said, 1970s Italy. And I don't want to give away too many details because it's like a story that unfolds. But you'll learn a lot more about sort of your friend and the character you control. Her name is Lala, I believe. Sort of her backstory. And along the way, you'll run into like hitchhikers and other colorful characters and learn a little bit about them, and just kind of get a very very broad sampling of what was going on in 1970s Italy. I did not really know what the situation was, but from what I could piece together from reading these little journal or I guess Wikipedia excerpts that the game pops up, it was just, political turmoil, and the anti-fascists are fighting the fascists and all that good stuff. But kind of just a weird game, the way it just kind of drops all this history on you without I don't know. I don't think it was like the smoothest integration into the storyline. It's more like you just be driving these people, and you'll pick somebody up and they'll make a comment, be like, well, I sure hope we don't run into those Nazis or whatever. And it's like, oh boy, this is happening now. It's like, oh, okay. It ultimately, I don't think it was like a terrific game. It was an interesting experience, but as opposed to compared to something like NeoCab, which was I thought a very interesting and kind of nuanced story with a lot of characters who there was a lot of potential directions that your conversations could go in that game, and a lot of kind of nuanced ways that you could influence the plot. In this one, it's more like just a ridiculous kind of breakneck choose-your-own-adventure game, where like you'll be talking to your friend, and somebody will get into your car, you go pick up a hitchhiker or somebody, and you will, pick from a couple of dialogue options, and then, suddenly you're like robbing a bank or on the run from the police or having a street race up the coast. And I'm just like, what? Wait, what happened to that game from 5 minutes ago where I was talking about my life problems with my friend here? So a lot of potential for just weird 90-degree turns in the storyline based on what you pick, which maybe is fine. It was just not really the game I was expecting. It's got it kind of prides itself on having many endings. Like some of them are just dramatically different, or actually a lot of them are real like different outcomes for what happens to your character. But I guess some of the appeal then is just finding all the weird story branches along the way. They're not necessarily like different versions of the same ending. It's like, oh, did you play Wheels of Aurelia? Yeah, I ended up in prison because, I robbed a bank and the cops caught us because I didn't drive fast enough. Or like, oh yeah, when I played it, my friend and I just made it happily to Rome or wherever we were going, and, had a quiet life after that. So it was an experience.
Huh. I've seen the trailer for this a couple times. It pops up in like Switch sales every now and then, and I'm like, what's Wheels of Aurelia? And I find myself watching the trailer again going, oh, it's this game. I remember seeing the trailer for this. And one of the things the trailer kind of hypes is the soundtrack, that it sort of like has this kind of swinging 70s Italian pop music, and that there's a couple of songs that were written and recorded just for the game, which is a pretty big undertaking for an indie game studio.
I did really like the soundtrack a lot. It's got that.
Yeah, that
funky
was not quite enough to get me to sort of like pull the trigger on buying the game, because the rest of it did not necessarily appeal to me. But I'm like, maybe I would just listen to the music.
Yeah, that might be the way to go. Load up, hit random on the Wikipedia section for like 1970s Italian politics. Read a little bit of what was going on.
You'll find the accompanying soundtrack. Yeah. Cool.
So yeah, it was a bit weird, but no, I don't know what my point is.
Yeah. So is it something that it doesn't sound like it, that you feel like you would play again to try to get different endings, or you are not that motivated?
No, probably not. I got like 3 or 4 of them just because I thought it was a different game, a different type of game going into it. But each playthrough also is maybe like 20 or 30 minutes long, so it's not even that bad. But it's just so unpredictable and kind of arbitrary about what happens next. Like, you can be talking to your friend, and suddenly, you get somebody who wants to go and like hunt down these fascists who are bothering you, and then you can just like instantly decide to ditch your friend in that city so you can go pursue this new thing you want to do.
It turned into the Italian Job.
Yeah, everything in this game is the Italian Job. So I don't know, it's just felt very kind of haphazard. But hey, it was free, so
yeah, price is right. Cool. I've been playing this, speaking of things that are kind of odd, this game, the Procession to Calvary.
This looks super good. I want to hear about this.
It is super good. I can start with saying that. I'm enjoying it a lot. It is a point-and-click adventure game that looks like a combination of Renaissance paintings combined with Monty Python. So I don't know if you know your way around Monty Python well enough, but during kind of the old Monty Python episodes, they would have these little interstitials, these little cartoons that were kind of cut and paste papercraft, essentially, of odd little characters doing funny things that were sort of in tonally in tune with Monty Python's sense of humor. And this entire video game looks like those cut and paste papercraft characters and worlds, but it's all done using Renaissance paintings that have been co-opted and repurposed as scenes from video games, as characters for this video game. It is packed with but not Italian pop music. Sorry, I have that other game on my brain. Classical music.
That's a weird choice.
Yeah, it's a strange choice. Every screen you're in, every world you're in has a band of minions or troubadours or a flautist playing some piece of classical music, and you can interact with them. It'll tell you what the name of the track is and stuff like that. And this is all done using either things that are accessible to like Creative Commons use or fair use, or aren't copywritten because they're hundreds of years old. So they've been co-opted by this kind of writer-programmer. His name is Joe Richardson, who makes apparently these weird games. And he has another one called The Four Things. That is sort of a prequel kind of to this. I don't know how connected they are. I didn't know that other one existed until I started playing the Procession to Calvary. In it, you play a female knight who has just finished the holy war and is still a little bloodthirsty and a little salty about the way that things went down. And you are going to go kill someone. I don't know if he's historically accurate, but he is Peter the Holy or something like that. And you are trying to sort of make your way across Italy to get to him so you can assassinate him. And along the way, it's a point-and-click adventure game like you would sort of expect from kind of the old days of video gaming, where you collect random things, you click on different characters and talk to them, and there are lines and lines of dialogue. And in the Procession of Calvary, the dialogue is very weird and occasionally quite funny and sometimes quite sacrilegious. Or blasphemous maybe is a better word for it. A little bawdy. It kind of mixes kind of modern day kind of speech patterns and sensibilities with kind of this neoclassical kind of aesthetic and characters. So you get characters who say things that are not kind of tonally appropriate for the time that they're trying to depict in the video game, which is funny.
Very Monty Python.
It's very Monty Python. Yeah, absolutely. The whole thing just has the tone of Monty Python and the Holy Grail. It is essentially Monty Python and the Holy Grail, the video game.
Does it work as like a humor game? Because I watched this, I watched the trailer for it rather, and first of all, I just can't believe that they made a game that looks like this.
That this exists, yeah.
Yeah, that somebody just thought, when somebody says, one day I'd like to make a video game, this is not what I ever imagined it turning out to be. So that is just amazing in itself. But it's so rare to find a genuinely funny like comedy game that's not just kind of like, Grand Theft Auto style wisecracks every once in a while.
It is more than anything, it is a vehicle for the jokes. As an adventure game, it's pretty easy. And the puzzles and stuff that you encounter and the solutions to those puzzles are pretty obvious. And you don't spend a lot of time kind of clicking your way. And to the credit of the game, you don't spend a lot of time kind of scratching your head over trying to figure out like what piece do I need? What character do I need to talk to be able to unlock the next thing? Sort of those classic adventure game things where you have to combine items to turn them into a key that unlocks. Like that stuff in the Procession to Calvary is very surface. It's very easy. It's very kind of, you'll encounter a character who is like, oh geez, I would let you in, but I need a haircut so badly that I couldn't possibly. And then you remember like 3 screens ago there was somebody with a pair of scissors, so you run back and you grab the scissors and you offer them to this person so we can get a haircut. Okay. Yeah, so they're pretty simplistic because it is this vehicle for being able to just do these rapid fire one after another setup, joke, punchline. And it's just so quick and witty and just fast paced from a humor perspective that I think if the game was bogged down by like unsolvable puzzles that left you scratching your head, it would just kind of like throw off the energy of the entire thing.
That's good. I think that's the way to do it.
Oh, totally.
I can't think of other. Maybe like Phoenix Wright or what was that? Murder by Numbers that we just talked about.
Yeah,
is that what that game was called? I can't even remember at this point.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was called. Yeah.
All right, excellent.
Yep.
I just feel like a lot of the times people set out to make a humor game, but just the gameplay gets in the way, and you end up having to retread a bunch of jokes, or just sometimes it's so frustrating that you're just not in the mood for jokes after a certain point.
Right.
So maybe it's just, a good way to approach this is like more of an interactive story or something like that.
Yeah, and it is. I mean, your mileage may vary on whether or not this sense of humor works for you. My girlfriend hates Monty Python and doesn't find any of it funny in the slightest, and I think it's hysterical. So,
well, I'm very sorry for her.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunately a big loss from her life, I think, but she just does not comprehend why I find. I mean, Life of Brian is like just a perfect movie. I love that movie, and she just does not share my appreciation of it at all. I will occasionally quote old Monty Python movies, and she will roll her eyes and go about her day. She just does not have the appreciation for it that I do. And so the Procession of Calvary really works for me because that sense of humor works for me. So yeah, I dig it. I think it's and I'm dying to play the first one. I want to finish this so I can go back and play his other game, because I can't believe that there's 2 of these in the universe.
I was gonna say, I can't believe that these just exist already. Like, somebody is like, I want to make Monty Python games, and obviously has been successful at doing it several times. Yeah. And
it is not in any way affiliated with Monty Python. He's not. He is not a founding member of. He's not the progeny of anyone from Monty Python. I suspect he's just somebody who appreciates that type of sensibility and has found an aesthetic that kind of creates a world that is essentially a vehicle for being able to tell those kinds of jokes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's super cool.
I dig it. I like it a lot. So. This, right now, the Procession of Calvary is only available on Steam, so you have to play it on your computer. It's not obscenely expensive, so I would totally recommend it. His other game, The Four Things, is also available on Steam. The little website for the Procession of Calvary says it's coming to mobile later this year.
Nice.
So it will be playable, and I think it would be perfect on your phone. It will be playable on phones and other devices in the coming months. But for now, if you want to get your hands on this thing, it's Steam only right now.
Hopefully it just blows up when it gets to mobile, because this sounds amazing.
Yeah. It is. I think there's a sensibility and an audience, I think, that is hungry for this type of humor in a game. And I mean, it's pretty unique. There's not a lot of other games that I can think of that sort of hit this button. So I would, I wish him much luck and many more games.
Nice. As you said, when did this come out? Was it recently?
The Procession of Calvary just came out in the last week or 2. It came out in April, so it's a relatively new release. The Four Things, his other game, is a little older. I think it was 2017.
Oh, okay. I was just wondering, so it's probably too soon for him to have revealed, like, oh yeah, I've got like 3 or 4 of these things planned after this.
I don't know. I know sort of, and I got this to play for review. This came from the publisher for me to be able to play for free. Otherwise, it's not a thing that maybe would have even sort of like popped up on my radar. I don't, I don't spend a lot of time playing computer games. I don't, roll through Steam looking for things that would appeal to me. But I got an email sort of with a press release announcing the release of this game, and it had screenshots and it had a trailer, and the trailer is hysterical. Watch the trailer, people. It's so funny. I sent it to DJ, and DJ's like, that looks amazing. So yeah, watch the trailer at the very least, and you will know from that whether or not this works for you. And if it does, I would totally recommend playing it.
Cool. Yeah, I want to check it out.
So I don't know a ton about him. I should dig into some more of those press materials. Unfortunately, I'm inadequately prepared to be able to speak to his process or anything like that, and what he has in mind. This is a guy who should definitely do an AMA on Reddit, because I have unanswered questions. But
it's probably like a gold mine.
Yeah, but yeah, no, it's what a weird little gem to have discovered. So I would recommend everybody check out the Procession to Calvary.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So do you want to do a half hour on Final Fantasy VII? Let's go. Let's do it.
I do not, honestly.
I'll save it for next week.
You want to save it for next week? You okay with that? I don't want to hurt your feelings. I'm here if you're here, but no.
I was just gonna, talk about my emotional connections to all these characters, but no, that's not what I was gonna get into.
Next week, save it for Cinco de Mayo next week.
Yeah. Cinco de Mayo next week? I guess
it is next week. Yeah, it's coming up.
That's gonna be interesting.
Tequila show.
Oh.
I don't know if I could do a show on tequila.
No, I definitely could not. It would be a 15-minute episode.
It would just be 15 minutes of you and I gabbing really fast, and then an hour of
yeah.
Yeah.
No promises.
Cool. We'll get to Final Fantasy VII next week, and we apologize to anybody who hung in there until this point to discover that we're not going to talk about it.
I'm sure they're just devastated.
Yeah, heartbroken. Not wasting so much time talking about turnips at the beginning of the game, DJ.
We did. Well, it's been a while since we talked about turnips.
If you need any more video game hangover in your brain, you should follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/VGHangover, or head right to our blog at VGHangover.com. definitely hop into our Discord, man. We have had some really good dialogue in there. We're talking about video games and movies and sharing pictures of what we're eating for dinner. And the community has definitely kind of come together nicely while we all have been under quarantine. So if you need some good folks to hang out with, kind of low pressure, low intensity, not a lot of like crazy hardcore gamer chat, but just kind of good people talking about video games and other things, definitely hop into the Video Game Hangover Discord.
I do need someone for my Modern Warfare squad, though.
Oh, there you go.
Not really. But, well, maybe. I don't know.
You can play Modern Warfare?
Maybe. I heard it's pretty good.
Yeah. Yep. I have a friend who's trying to get me to play that Battle Royale mode.
Yeah, I heard that's pretty good, too.
Yeah, I've heard that as well.
Might be time to get back into
addictions. All right, well, we will be back next week. Until then, this is Randy Dickinson.
This is DJ Ross.
Thanks for listening to Video Game Hangover. Goodbye.
Good night.
See ya.